Now, at certain points in the course, you may need to enter coordinate pairs, using, of course, typical coordinate notation, with parentheses around the outside of them, that contain fractions for the coordinate values. And this is actually a little bit tricky to do in MathQuill, so we're going to talk about how you do this. I'm going to tell you exactly how to type this out. So let's say that this is the order pair that we want to type, 3 over 4, comma, negative 1.5. I'm going to tell you exactly what keys to press and then what will appear as you type each one of them. So the first thing we have is this open parentheses. But when you type that, both parentheses appear. The next step is to type a forward slash, at which point the space inside the two parentheses will turn into the input for a fraction. So there will be a line and a space for you to enter the numerator and the denominator. Your cursor at this point will be in the numerator. And as unintuitive as it might seem, what we want to do is to get the cursor to be right here inside the first parentheses, but before we have the option to type inside the fraction. So you just need to type a left arrow key to move the cursor over here. Then you can type a comma, which will be the comma between our two coordinates. At this point, your cursor will be right here, between the comma and the fraction spot. So you need to type the left arrow key to move it back here. Then we just need to create the first coordinate. Then you need to type a forward slash again, which will create another spot for a fraction to be input. And then you can use the arrow keys as you normally would between fractions to go to each numerator and denominator and enter the values that you want to. So you can see that what's happening here, in terms of the order that things appeared in over here, depending on what I told you to type, that you have to actually create the spot for the second coordinate as a fraction before you create the first one. If you try to create one fraction and then put a comma, it's not going to work. Another option would be for you to create two separate fraction spots and then move to the spot between the two of them and then put a comma. This is just a way that works really easily for me. But of course, as always, you can experiment and figure out what works best for you. So thinking about how you create two coordinates that are each fractions, I'd like you to try out typing each of these coordinate pairs. First one we have is 3/4, comma, negative 1/2. Then we have 1, comma, 2 over 7. And then we have negative 1/8, comma, 3. So just play around with these and see if you can get comfortable with this format.